We're going to kind of talk a lot about how to counsel people, coach them, and talk to employees. A lot of about our job is about being approachable. And so I like to do like a top 10 ways that all of you can upgrade your approachability as managers. And I think the biggest one is, we always have to set the example. And as a regional manager, every single time I'm in those stores, people that work in my district, they know I make the first move. We should be the ones saying hello, saying thank you to people, asking, using the please, all of those good things. So it's about acknowledging people and making everyone know that you're glad that they're there for their shift. They showed up, right? They're showing up for their shifts, and we're ready to get down to business and do some work. Also, it sets a positive tone for the day, the shift when you make the first move. Have you ever worked with someone that might have been, you think they're in a bad mood because they never said hello to you in the morning? Any of you ever come across that? You can give me a thumbs up if you ever worked with someone and they never spoke to you. It's uncomfortable. So communication improves whenever we're able to be making the first move. Also, it reduces that awkwardness. If I was a new employee and someone never said hello, welcome me that day, I don't know that I'd want to be part of that culture. Okay. So it's very, very important that you're making the first move every shift, every day. You're setting the expectations for not only yourself, you're setting the standard, and you're also sending it for your crew members and fellow coworkers.
Okay.
Number two, it's about being aware of your body language. And, some of us, we have to be mindful of this because you're not, sometimes, they talk about this, do you have a resting bitch face or something like that? And it's like, you've got to be aware of it. Whether someone's trying to talk to you and you're overwhelmed and you're rolling the eyes at them. Okay. So, or you have your hands in your pocket, you're looking around because you want them to end the conversation early. So, really watch your facial expressions. Um, are you engaged in the conversation? Do you feel like what they have to say to you is important? Sometimes when I come in, people will be like, Ann, I need to talk to you. It's like, and for me, right, we don't want to be bombarded first thing when we come in. And I let them know, I'll find you. I'm going to be here for a while. I'll come and get you when I'm ready to have a conversation. And I think that you can do the same thing. A lot of times you come in the door, they want to tell you about 5 things that happen with the shift. You're just getting into the door. So you can ask them to wait. You can let them know, like, yes, I'm willing to talk to you later. I'll come find you when I'm ready. Okay. So smiling at people, all of that kind of stuff with your face, it lets them know, that you are listening, you're hearing what they have to say. Everybody wants to be seen and heard these days. Okay. Your eyes, I mentioned, big thing. If you're looking around, you're not showing interest. Um, Probably the big thing is the rolling of the eyes. Sometimes I've come
Yes.
across quite a few people that do that. And
Yeah.
until you bring it to someone's attention, they're not even aware that they do it, or their eyebrows, they're always like, their facial expression, their eyebrows are being raised. So think about that. Think about your face, think about your eyes. And then the last one was the body, our body language. Arms open on the sides or the lap. If you're someone that's constantly, your hands are moving, find a way to put them up against your sides. That way you can maintain that. That way you're not distracting someone, or like some people fidget, sometimes when I drink too much coffee, I have a fidgeting problem. So being aware of those kind of motions in your body. Also, you should always try to match someone's mood or energy. And what I mean by that, if someone is coming to you with great news, oh my gosh, I made it, I'm going to prom. Well, prom is an exciting time, in someone's life in high school. So that's showing some excitement for them. Or they got a new car, or maybe they got a new scooter to come to work. Whatever it is, showing some expression, but also knowing that if someone lost someone, they had a death in the family, that we're compassionate towards that too, and we're not smiling about something. We're trying to be understanding that that's probably a trying time in their life. And what do they need from us during that period? Okay. Number three is keeping the door open. And big thing with that is a lot of times we come in the morning and yes, we've got things to do and the office is supposed to be closed at all times, right? When we're not in there, but keeping the door open, you can hear a lot of things. Like when I'm in the store, I actually like to keep the door open. Sometimes I hear the cooks talk about stuff and it's kind of interesting. I learn a lot. I learn a lot just by listening. You know, you'll hear them complaining about a particular employee that you might not know about if you didn't have that opportunity. So it keeps you connected with your people. It also shows that you're willing to have a conversation. So if they have a question for you, they find that you're available if the office door is open and they're willing to ask those kind of questions. Maybe they want to tell you one of the concerns. Maybe it's about a crew member, maybe it's about their schedule or something like that. Like I said, it keeps you aware of what's going on in your buildings. I learn a lot just by listening to people. Also addresses any issues, challenges proactively. Big thing I'd say, you have to establish trust with your people, just like you have to establish trust with your managers. You've got to learn each other's behaviors, you learn their disc styles, and you're able to establish trust. If you don't have trust, people don't believe everything that you're going to say or do. You got to match those actions with those words. Big thing with this is it improves the crew morale, and you want people to be happy to come to work. They want to know that their managers care about them and that they're willing to help them out. Okay. A closed door. Listen, when we got private conversations, absolutely the door gets closed. You're opening the safe. We keep the door closed, right? Private things. We don't want people seeing things that might be on the desk or whatnot. Shows that we don't want to be bothered, interrupted. Maybe you're in the office right now having a Zoom and you got something on the door. In training, Zoom, don't knock, don't bother me, whatever it is. Does keep people at a distance, but there are times that is necessary. Hopefully you're not keeping the office door all the time just because you want to avoid them or alienate them, because that's not a good thing, a policy to have. One thing that's noted, if you read about anything, increased turnover. When you're constantly shut down and not engaged with the people. And then also I talk a lot about, it's about the quality of the culture that's in your building, so be mindful. You want people to have a good place to come to work. I've interviewed a lot of managers there, and when I talk to them, one of the things that they always tell me, the reason they're leaving their other job is because it's not a good culture, not a good place to be, not a good environment for their mental health. Number 4, this is a big one. Big one. We're giving evaluations out. We've got to be able to listen. When someone has a concern, being able to listen without interrupting people, trying to understand what they're trying to express to you, okay? So it's about us finding effective listening skills. And so I always say, what is effective listening? It's about being attentive, keeping your open mind to whatever they're going to tell you. Listen, everybody's got, if they worked in other restaurants, they have great ideas, and maybe some of them are that they could submit with the idea of the quarter, right? But we have our policies and we're not going to change certain policies, but we can let them know that, that we've done that in the past and, this is our new procedure on this. Appreciate you coming up with a creative idea. I think it's important for people to know. We appreciate that you're thinking, and you're looking for better ways to do things. And actually, anyone that works in an area and they work Salabar every single day, they probably have some input on how that area could run more effectively. So always listen because they've got great ideas on how to solve some of our issues too. Never interrupting people. Be mindful of that. That's one big thing. Interrupting people shuts things down, hurts your trust level, all of that. I always say hearing both content and feeling those nonverbals, like you're listening, and the clarifying questions. One of the biggest things that you could do, and this is not just in our work environment, but also personal life, is ask clarifying questions. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because when you ask the clarifying questions when someone's trying to talk to you, you gain the valuable information back and you're able to help solve that issue or you're able to address that issue and being able to rephrase things always gives you more information into things. So what is not listening? Giving advice, offering solutions. I have a lot of crew members, I that come to me and they talk to me about their situation. I have to ride the bus. I need to be out of here at a certain time and I don't have this and my mom this. I have to get home to babysit. Okay, it's important for us to understand these are people's lives. And what do you need from me? And how do you want us to address your schedule? Someone that's late all the time, they're 20 minutes, 25 minutes late. Maybe their schedule needs adjusted for another 30 minutes so they can get there. Maybe they got to get their child off the bus and they got to get him to the dad or the grandparents' house, whatever it is. Someone that's habitually late, there's a reason. And we need to ask those questions to find out what do you need from us so that you're not going to be late all the time. Okay. I talk a lot about this interrupting. I'm not, it's not a good thing. If you're one of those people that interrupt, find a way to, shut that down. Sharing your own thoughts when someone's talking, that's not listening. And then if you're analyzing or already trying to solve the problem before they express to you everything that they want to tell you about it, okay? Also looking for any kind of errors or faults. It's not for us to judge things. If you want to truly have an open mind, then you've got to be able to listen and let them get their thoughts out. Okay. We may not always have the time to hear things, but there are moments throughout our day where we can say, hey, do you want to have that conversation now? Because it's a better time. We got the order in, we had to put the truck away, we've got stuff to do, and you can continue to prioritize that, but let them know I'm going to come back and we're going to revisit this. Okay. Moving on to 5. Number 5 is breaking down the barriers. And how do we do that? It's you open the lines of communication because you're accessible. You're going to make yourself available to things. It is important for you to show an interest in someone's life, but there is a fine line before showing an interest and being completely engaged in their life too. Like I think it's important for me as a regional manager, I need to know who are high school people. Maybe they're college people. They're graduating soon. As managers, for you to run your building, someone that might be going to college, you're going to have to replace that person. Maybe they're going to go local. Now you lucked out. They're going to be sticking around. Or maybe they've been a greeter for so long and they want to move on to the serving position and, finding out some information. Or they don't like prep and maybe they want to try kitchen. Whatever it is, I think it shows an interest in what's going on. It's also important to know who has kids. Sometimes daytime serving is better for some people. It's good to share things. Do I get involved in all my personal life and tell everybody all my business? No, absolutely not. But do I know something about every single crew member in every single building? I really try to make an effort to know. Are they in college? They're going to be graduating. They're doing this. And when they come to you and say, I landed this job or I'm graduating, well, that's an exciting time. Maybe you're going to pump fists. I don't know. Maybe you're going to do a little jig. I don't know. But it's always exciting when someone sees like they've experienced some success. Okay. It's very, very important to be transparent and real. And what I talk about with this in any difficult conversations, okay? Someone that wants a raise and you only gave them a small raise because they weren't performing at a particular level. And that can be a difficult conversation. But if you're honest with them and say, this is what I need to see from you moving forward, in the next 30 or 60 days, you can close the kitchen and you can do a great job. And I don't have to come in and, show you 10 items that you're missing. We'll look forward to moving you forward with another portion of a raise, but I've got to see progress. And I think it's really, really important for people to say, you've done this, this, and this, but this is what I need. As your boss and as your manager, this is what I need moving forward. And I always say the last thing, I'll let you steal this from me. What do you need from me? What do you need from me so that you can be successful with that? And I think that when you ask that and someone says, "Well, you're on me about these crocks and there's food in the crock or dressings in the crock." I don't have any spatulas. You want me to scrape, but I don't have any spatulas to scrape. That's important information. We need to go get some spatulas for them, okay? So you learn something in the process also. It is important to understand things from different perspectives, different opinions. We're not all, we're exposed to different things. We're going to see things from different viewpoints. I keep saying about this trust, what we say has to match our actions and it's got to be genuine. And I think that, that when you're honest with people, they appreciate that. Because when you're dancing around the conversation, they're not very clear as to what you're asking from them. One other thing, it develops a nice comfort level with one another, and you can appreciate the openness that, you were able to have a difficult conversation. Difficult conversations can lead to some really positive outcomes. I do check-ins with my managers and, sometimes they tell me, "And I don't like this," or "I don't have an opportunity to do this," or "I need help with this." It's my job to make sure I get them the help that they need or provide them the opportunities that they're looking for. I think that honesty goes a long way. I always say be straightforward, consistent with your actions. That's with raises. Like if you're going to tell that cook, we're going to give you a raise if you're able to open and close and you're able to do a very detailed job. That grill cleaning, it's going to look so magnificent looking at that grill that I can see my face in that shininess, all right? Like if that's our expectation, they'll deliver, but in return, we've got to follow through with they're getting that raise, okay? Honoring those promises, those commitments, whatever you're saying you're going to do, follow through. Always follow through. You got to do the right thing whenever we tell people that, okay? Number 6, this is one of the biggest things that I hope you can take away from this. It's about asking powerful questions. And what are powerful questions? They're not the yes and no's, okay? They're always going to be the what and the how. Like if you're having a problem with getting vents, the kitchen vents cleaning, who are you going to go to? You're going to go to the cook. You're going to go to your cooks. And I usually, like when I had trouble getting some things done in the district, I just went to the cook. How do you think we can get these vents cleaned on a weekly basis? What do we need to do? Well, we don't have any grease cutter. Oh, well, that's a big problem. As managers, we need to provide them the tools to do the job, right? So whatever the question, whatever you need and you're trying to solve in your store, whether it's operational thing. Maybe it's your prep people and they're not measuring. I noticed that you're not measuring on a regular basis. How do you think we can get you on board with that? What do you need from me? You're not going to make a change. You're not going to get them to change unless you ask the question, listen effectively what they're going to say. And if they say, well, one set of measuring cups and spoons isn't enough to get it done. I have to wash them every time. It's a big hassle. I know what a tablespoon is. Someone would say, I know what a tablespoon is. I usually reply, well, I imagine you do, but we want to keep things consistent in every day for that recipe to taste the exact same way. We want you to measure. So regardless if you're making it or someone else is making it, the guest is always going to receive the same product. You always have to tell them the reason behind it, okay? So if you can get better at something, I suggest you get better at asking the right questions, whatever it is. If you have a shift and a shift is difficult, how can we fix this so we don't have it next time? What do I need? What do I need to do differently? And sometimes our people will help us solve those issues ourselves, okay? Avoid the whys. When you say, why can't we get these vents done? Well, then they get defensive. You don't think I'm doing my job. You could go down a big old rabbit hole with the whys. So really try to avoid the whys. And I don't interrogate anyone. It's about us trying to solve whatever it is. Servers not doing the non-negotiables. How do we solve it? You can utilize someone that does a great job. Hey, Mary, how are you getting that done? What do you say when you go to the table? And you start to track it. A lot of my managers, we track what the non-negotiables are. We see who's getting it done. Someone that doesn't sell a tea or lemonade, what's happening here? Hey, Sue, what's happening here? Notice you don't have any. I go in and I see something and I usually ask the question, how are you going to get more of those teas and lemonades? So you pay attention to it. And then when you notice that they're trying and they make an effort and you start to see the numbers move, we praise, right? We praise them and let them know, like, I saw you moving the needle on that. Now you've got some of that this week. Using the other person's words. So if you're trying to come up with the conversation, the what or the how, someone's telling you about the kitchen vents, whatever they're saying, reiterate it back with the question or the statement. Okay. It is about information. You're getting information. You're trying to figure out how to solve. They're coming up with their own solutions to some of these problems. Okay. Adds value to your conversations. I don't want to talk about 30 minutes about vents. Can we do it in 5, maybe 10 minutes and try to figure out what we need to do? Hey, these 2 days would be better. Tuesday and Friday would be better to do those. You have us doing it on a truck day, and then you have us, soaking this in the dish room. It's just a lot. Okay, what do you think we need to do? Hey, if they give me another day and I'm going to get vents clean, I'd make the change. Okay, it's not always about what we want. Can we get them to do it and do it where it's effective? Productive conversations and communication, it makes it more effective. Also, most of the talking when you're asking questions, you're letting them talk. You're just there to listen to see how they're going to figure it out. People can figure things out if you just listen and ask the right questions. Okay. Number 7, we get the hosta happens. You get these memos. People learn. I want you to know one thing. And I know this about myself. People learn 3 ways. We learn by hearing, seeing, and doing things. Not everybody is someone that could read a memo or read the hosta happen and completely understand it. Okay? So be mindful of that when you post it, you think everybody's supposed to be on board with something, but they might not have comprehended the information in it. And you can say, how did were you able to comprehend what we need you to do with this particular item? Did you understand this? Sometimes I'll just say, how do you think about that? What do you think about that new procedure? And if they're like, I didn't understand it, like I walked in a store and they weren't doing something correctly and just it's the wrong procedure. They said, I read it, but I didn't understand how to do it. Like, can you show me? Showed them. They immediately wanted to do it. Okay. So don't always assume just because you post something that they're going to be able to comprehend what's on there. Okay. Helping people, sharing information lets them grow, lets them, gives them opportunities to have new ideas also. Our job is to be a mentor, to be a coach and develop people. This way they gain experience. With more experience, you're going to get a better worker. You're going to get someone that might end up being a CDT, someone that's going to be able to help you with a new hire. So whatever time and effort you spend with someone, you could be rewarded by them benefiting us down the road. Okay. Transparency. I have it on here again, promotes trust. Any suggestions that someone makes should be taken fairly. And you should, whether we like them or not, we should still listen to the suggestions. Okay. Always remain open, answer questions, and explain the reasoning for our decisions. You know, someone that doesn't want to put something in the dessert cups, why can't we just put this pan of dessert out there? Well, there are reasons we made changes to that. It was all about quality and presentation and trying to explain that to people. I think that if you can give them the whys to why we do it, I think that that helps develop a little bit of that understanding. Eliminates any kind of unpleasant surprises. I have on here, remain open, answer questions, explain your reasoning for the decisions that we do make. Also develops a little bit of comfort, you know, especially if you have to give them some good or bad news. You know, the bad news, whether it's I'm taking away a shift because we've talked to you about this, you know, sometimes that's very, very uncomfortable times to do that, but it also is a good thing because you're following through with your actions. The awareness of how everyone on the team, including yourselves, can add value and contribute. And then above all, it promotes understanding and appreciation for other people and the jobs that they do for us. Number 8, big one, showing empathy for others. It is important for us to put yourself in their shoes. Someone that doesn't have a vehicle, they have to ride the bus, then the bus is late. And why are they late? You know, maybe they need to be scheduled later because the bus is late all the time. Maybe instead of 8 o'clock, we let them come in at 8:30. Okay. So trying to understand it, imagine what they are thinking or feeling, you know, in those situations. It is important for us to understand, gain a deeper understanding of the situation, the issues. Big one, you're going to hear it all the time. Being open-minded to anything that is being thrown at you. Asking the questions, as I mentioned, those active listening skills. Always offering to help. What do you need? What can I do to help? When I'm in a store and it's busy, I'm jumping in. If it's not busy and I'm checking things, what do you need from me? How can I help? Someone's not understanding these new usage reports. What can I do to help you? Sometimes that 5 minutes or 10 minutes that I spend explaining things makes a world of difference. I don't understand that. I don't do food costs. Monday, that's done on Monday. Any time you spend with someone will grow them and give them an opportunity to learn something new. Lastly, always following up. Someone that's, you did the vents are in place, and now all of a sudden, here's a week goes by, the vents didn't get done. We need to ask, what happened? I noticed the vents weren't done last night. Well, this happened. So-and-so called off and I closed the dish room, but I'm going to get them done tonight. Okay. You've got to be able to follow up and see if they're, executing what we're asking of them. Number 9 is always recognizing people. We can tell everybody what they're doing wrong. We can find something. How many times do you find someone doing something right? Someone that steps up and really truly helps you. Like that lifesaver. Whenever I was a general manager, one of my biggest things I did, I always had lifesavers, and I've given them out like those tiny little ones that you get during Halloween, and I would let them know you were a lifesaver today. You saved me, because they were able to jump in and do 2 jobs, or they were able to do something that made a world of difference on that shift. So thank yous is really, really important. I know that whenever it's someone's birthday, are you giving out those birthday cards and celebrating it? I can remember when we gave someone a birthday cake, they told me when I was in there, never had a birthday cake in my life. 21 years old, never had a birthday cake. You never know what's going on in someone's life. So it's the little things that you'll learn just by listening, okay? Positive feedback. I'm more of a, positive girl. I've got to look for some good things. Am I going to give you some things to work on? Absolutely. But if I see, someone had a great shift and everybody worked well together and we hustled and got it done, it's important to let them know you guys rocked it today. I appreciate all you guys worked hard. Thanks. Thanks so much, and just being specific whenever you're telling them. I appreciated that you went back and worked in the dish room and removed all those dishes off the island so that the dishes didn't break. Thanks for taking the initiative to do that. Little things. It's the little things that make the world a difference. Are you utilizing your pre-shift meetings during your shifts? And big one, rip and pip. Always reprimand in private and praise in public. You want to see people do better things and more things? Do it in the station and let them know where there's a lot of people around. You in the kitchen, got a full kitchen, 5 people, 4 people in the kitchen, letting them know. Really like this, like what, how clean this was. Your grill looks so shiny from last night. Whatever it is, it makes them feel special when you do something like that. People will feel valued, motivated, and appreciated whenever you recognize them. Our people are the most valuable resource. You're the most valuable resource for all of the regional managers, and all the corporate office. It's you're the ones that are out there doing that. So really knowing that you make a difference, and you make a difference by what you do on your shifts every single day. Morale's a big thing. People, when you got a positive workplace, good culture, people are happy to be there. They're excited to dress up. Like I was in one of the stores, they were all dressed up for St. Patrick's Day, and they were putting on little things on each other's little face, glitter and shamrocks. It was nice. It made me feel, I was like, oh my gosh. And then they wanted to include me with having a little wristband and something else. I wanted to be a part of it because they were having such good energy. You could tell like they were happy to be there that night. Also decreases turnover. People feel like they're part of a family. They're part of something and they want to contribute. Number 10, it's all about making it fun. I'm all about the fun. You got to celebrate the successes, whatever it is. Oh my gosh, we moved the needle on our usage report. Our average check got bumped up because the servers are selling this. They're selling more, with the non-negotiables. The dish room kept it up. It looks clean. We didn't have any dirty dishes tonight. Woohoo! Like it's exciting that good things happen. Make sure we celebrate the little things. The little things are really the big things on our shifts. Develops our relationships and loyalty amongst our team. Big one, You ever have crew members who like to work with a particular manager? That manager might be the fun manager. Everybody wants to work with the fun manager, but you still have to have expectations too. Increases our crew engagement and productivity, morale again. It also increases the commitment to the job and being satisfied with what they're doing. Big one that's on here for all of us, reducing our stress. If we can reduce our stress and their stress, that's huge, especially when you're understaffed. That's huge. And then also makes us the employer of choice. When people if you're in your store and you ask people, hey, I'm looking to hire some greeters. Do you have any friends that want to work here? And they go, no, I never would want my friends to work here. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign about your culture. And if someone would tell me that, I'd say, well, what is the reason you would say that? And if they said, well, oh, the managers here are jerks. People tell you things. You start asking questions, you'll definitely gain some valuable knowledge. All right, so we're moving on to how do you use this approachability and when you need to coach someone or you need to counsel someone, especially on a job performance. And all of you have already gone through the HR part of this, but it's also about you're not always going to be counseling someone unless they're continuing to do behaviors that are unacceptable. Coaching is coaching new employees or coaching someone that's been there 30 years and they're not doing something correctly. And we need to turn it around. One big thing is to gather the facts. It always starts with the facts. If you're trying to, for me, I like to go back to the Haas way. If it's something I like to know that didn't change, what I'm thinking is correct. And I want to make sure that's correct. I always like the job descriptions whenever we're trying to counsel someone. It says this is in the job description, what we need from you. So using that Hosway, the job description and the handbook, the employee handbook, especially for counseling, you need verbiage, you're going to get all your verbiage out of there. You know, if someone's not doing a specific procedure on the salad bar correctly, I don't know, like breaking down the salad dressings, you can pull it out of the manual. Sometimes people find that very confusing. They don't even know what breaking the bacteria chain is. Why do we do that? We do that because we want to keep our salad dressing safe. The food that goes in there and how it can make someone sick if we don't break it down and break that bacteria chain, you know? So trying to explain that to people and gain an understanding is really, really important. Anytime you need to coach someone, you can ask, start with your GM. You know, I'm having difficulty with so and so. This is my particular issue. GM should be able to kind of help you with that. That could be your first stepping stone. Your regional manager is an actual excellent person. We coach people, we counsel people on a regular basis. So anytime someone needs something, I'm always willing to lend a hand on that. I like to give them, as I say, some talking points. And where do the talking points come from? It comes from those items that I mentioned. Hosway, job description, employee handbook. Okay? If you are counseling, you guys know this, you have to document it. How many of you have actually wrote an incident report where it was a good one? Where someone went above and beyond? Anyone have done that and you want to unmute and tell us? No one. Think
I
about
don't
that.
think I don't think we ever I don't think we did any reports, not good or bad. I don't think we never write it up anybody yet or
Okay. Well, if you see someone doing something really, really awesome, and the reason why I encourage this, especially as new managers, you see someone doing something really awesome, we should document it. We should say, you know, this cook came in, we had a call off, they came in, they helped us, they ended up staying and closed the dish room. They were our lifesaver, and we really appreciate you. I like to
Mhm.
write little cards, you know, little thank you cards, or I have these little cards with my name on it. I just like to write a message and be specific. You know,
Yeah, I do
you
that.
trained as a manager.
I write cards and I write it behind the Eagle cards. I say thank you so much for, help with that and that. And I give them the Eagle card when they help in the shift that they're not supposed to, or they jump into the salad bar, or even the waiters sometimes help in the salad bar. And that's how I reward them.
Yes, I love that. And I'm going to tell you, if you can you don't realize until you hear it from someone. I had a 30-year employee, just turned 30 years. I wrote them a thing. They told me the next time they saw me that card that I wrote to them is on their refrigerator. They said they see it every single day. It might
Mhm.
be the littlest thing. That card might have taken me probably 2, 3 minutes to write,
Yeah.
but it meant the world to them because
Yeah.
they don't get encouragement like that. So think about that. If you see something really great, a little handwritten note goes a long way. So if you are able to do that, I totally encourage that.
Mhm.
Everything's about keeping it private, especially with counseling, you know, and one of the biggest things that I hear a lot, and we've seen this on the employee surveys, is being fair, firm, and consistent. If we're gonna bust someone on eating soup off the salad bar without asking, we need to bust everybody on it. You need to be
Mhm.
consistent because if you're
Mhm.
showing favoritism, or sometimes as new managers, we don't want to have that confrontation with someone that's been there for a while. So we'll let that person slide, but yet being that these other ones are new, we'll be able to tell them. Well, everybody
Mhm.
watches everything, single thing that you say and you do, including myself. Everybody, they watch me all the time. How I
Mhm.
react to situations. What do I say? How do I handle difficult things? You know, and Am I keeping it private? And if they're asking, it's none of their business. They don't need to
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about or what I'm doing or whatnot. But remember, it's about keeping it private. Always have a witness if you're in any kind of HR situations. I totally, you got to have a witness to things because they can turn things and definitely switch up the whole situation. Okay. I
Mhm.
like to, if you're going to give someone a counseling, state the positives. I always tell my managers, write down 5 things that that person does really, really well. What do they do good? Oh, they're dependable. What else? What else do they do? They have a good attitude most of the time. All right. Like put down what behaviors are they doing that are positive and good. And then what do they need to work on? So when you're coaching someone, you do this, this, and this really, really well. What I need to see from you is more consistency with the non-negotiables. I notice that you'll come over and you'll mention it, but you're forgetting to ask the appetizer or the add-ons or the manager's feature. Like whatever it is, state the positive. This is what you're doing really, really well. This is what I would like to see as an improvement, an opportunity for you to become better. And that I think that that's really good to tell them and end it with, what do you think you can do to improve that? What do you need from me? Well, how can I help you? Um, focus on those coaching questions, the hows, the whats, and how you can utilize those to benefit you. I think it's also important to explain the corrective action, what the correct behavior that you do want to see. This is what I need to see from your shift. I need to see that you're going to be mentioned in this whenever you're at the table, following through. These are the 4. Sometimes I ask them, what are the 4 non-negotiables? Maybe they don't even know what they are. And if they're stumbling on it, how can they execute a job if they don't know what they are? Maybe they weren't trained properly. Sometimes we threw people in situations and they weren't ready to be in that situation, okay? So be mindful of that. Open-minded, okay. I understand you might not have been trained properly, but this is the correct procedure. When you come to the table, this is what I would like to see from you. And be specific as to what you want to see. And then when you see it, woohoo! Give them that moment. Hey, I saw that. Catching them do something right. Absolutely. Okay. Consequences, obviously, like I said, it's about warning them that this is what's going to happen, suspending if we have to, and then termination if it's not going to turn around. My biggest thing, anytime you're coaching someone or counseling someone, follow up 24, 48 hours later. Next time you see that person, whatever you ask them to do, are they now changing and making an effort? If they're not, we need to let them know, I haven't seen you turn that around. I can still see that you're doing the same behavior. We already had a discussion about this. I'd like to see that you're at least putting the effort in to make some changes, like immediately. Okay? Big thing. Acknowledge it, the positives, and holding people accountable. You're not going to get change if you don't acknowledge that they're making improvement. Okay? So, takeaways, what can you take from this to make your shifts better in your store? Maybe the way you engage with your people. And being that I don't know each of you by name, which I'll get to see in person here, why don't we start with who's in Chambersburg? What would you be your takeaways from today that you're going to try to implement?
Well, I'm gonna make sure to greet everyone when I begin my shift and thank them at the end of the shift too, telling them they did a great job. Thank you for doing whatever they've done. And work more on being open-minded and out with the crew.
Great. I love that. Sam? All I see is Sam's S25.
Mhm.
Sam, you
Just
need to
think,
unmute.
Okay. What do you got, Sam? What are you going to take away?
Just making sure I greet everyone because I don't always see everyone when I get there.
Okay, that's great. From Lewistown, what would be your takeaways from today?
I agree with those two in and greeting everybody, going around to every department, see how everyone's doing, and just thanking people before they leave for coming in and doing what they do.
Okay. How about Bedford?
I think trying to get to know my employees better. I think there's some employees that I know really well, and there's some that I don't, and also trying to greet people when I first get there.
Okay. Gracie, what do you got?
I think using some of the like Hosway materials that we have, like when someone asks me a question and I might not know the answer, maybe pulling the manual out and looking together.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, that's that's wherever all the information is. And we're not always going to remember every procedure. Okay, Greensburg, Scott, what are you taking away?
And ask them more questions and like their inputs on ideas, like how to
Good.
get stuff done.
Yeah, and you need help, right?
Yeah.
You do. All right, Evelyn, what do you got for me?
I want to focus more on like the documenting the good and then more of the following up on the bad. I think I do a decent with the greeting everybody when I come in. I usually come in a little bit earlier, so I kind of just make my rounds around everybody, but definitely more of like the documentation of like the goods, the follow-ups on the bads, the consistency.
I love that. Anvil.
Um, Continuing the greeting and making sure everyone's doing a great job. Thank them for everything that they do.
Yeah, I love that. I really hope you guys make that effort because you're going to see a different, they're going to look at you a little bit differently. They're going to think, oh, what's going on here? Larry, what do you have?
I'm pretty much going to acknowledge them for the great things they do whenever I do the counseling or documentation, because I think I do a good job at documenting everything, because if you don't document it, it never happened. But I think it'd be a little positive, more reinforcement if I say, hey, you do this very well. However, I need you to work on this, and doing that 48-hour follow-up at least.
All right, I love that. How about you, Yasmin?
I think documenting in general, especially good things, and I really like the idea of writing a note because I do say hello to everyone, and I would like to think that I know my staff very well, and I thank them every night when they leave. But I feel like a note is more personal and special, if you will.
It is. I completely agree. Did I get everybody? I think I did.
Me.
Oh, Altoona.
Yeah. I am very good on follow up with them and talk to them and try to know their lives, personal lives in on my shifts, because I care, and that's like it's part of who I am. And I'm not very good on documentation writing because my first language is not English. So I kind of leave there, make short notes, but I think I need to grow up in documentation a little more.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's about, listen, the one thing that I always tell people, we just need to be 1% better than we were yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. I think if you guys can take that away, 1% better, 1%, you're going to try a little harder today when you're at work. 1%. 1%. Imagine after a couple weeks where you're going to be. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that. Focus on the 1%. Take some of this information, start incorporating it. I'd love to hear about it whenever I'm at Campbell U with you guys here coming up and meeting you in person. So thank you for today. Does anyone have any questions for me? All right, awesome. Well, thanks for attending, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Pam.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Hey, you too. See ya.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.